Hello fellow old schoolers and welcome to part 7 of the Pegasus Cup 2020. This matchup is between the Ooze Trader and the Green Preserve, and let's take a few minutes to go over these decks. This is the Ooze Trader, and I've gone over that more in depth in the recording just before this one, where it faced off against a lethal attack deck. Here it is for reference. It revolves around making some trades with that juxtapose up there in the right corner, and trade bad cards for good cards, like trading away a tapped mana vault for a good artifact, or trade away those primordial ooze once they have grown too big to control, and then the opponent will take a lot of damage as he can't pay the upkeep for the ooze, and you gain a creature out of it, etc. There's a lot of combinations in this deck, and it's coming up against this new deck on the channel, the Green Preserve. It's a green and white deck that revolves around Circular Protection green, and then using Alien Leprechauns and Lifeless to make the opponent's creatures green so they can't damage him. There's a lot of combinations here, including those Force of Natures and if beefy Freets that will usually do damage to its owner, but with that Circular Protection green he can just prevent the damage, and he can make it even more spicy with a Spirit Link, as a Spirit Link Force of Nature will let him gain a lot of life, and he doesn't have to pay its upkeep, as when it hurts him, it'll just heal him up. Same with the FBP Freed, it can be used to, you can pump green mana into it, and it'll do damage to itself and all flying creatures and all players in the game. And with an active Spirit Link on it, you'll heal up for each target and for each point of damage you do this with. So that's pretty brutal. And there's also a couple of Mesa Pegasi there in the middle, and that's because this particular tournament has a theme with Mesa Pegasi. So I've gone over that in the introduction of this tournament. Suffice to say that it can be cast with 2 colors mana in this tournament, and there's a bunch of sub-tournaments you can win with them, like small prizes when the Mesa Pegasi do damage and stuff like that. So very, very spicy, with a lot of different combinations to it, both decks have, so let's get it on. And this is round 1, and we have the Ooze Trader on the left here, and the Green Reserve on the right, and he is on the play here with a Green Mox and a Factory turn 1. And the Green Preserve, okay, Mana Vault coming out of the Ooze Trader. Getting disenchanted immediately, it seems. Oh, is that a divine? Oh, it's a disenchant. Trying to hold the Ooze Trader back here. Savannah coming out, and then an attack with a Factory. A lot of counter magic on the hand of the Ooze Trader there. So and he has 2 blue mana up, 3 blue mana up to counter whatever the Green Preserve will put out. Attacks with the Factory again. Passing the turn though. At his end step, after he has taken the damage, he puts the Factory on the hand of the other guy. That means that he can't play it this turn. So he'll need to use a land drop for it, and he can't attack the next turn. So it's actually the superior play. Oddly enough. Okay, for Llanowar Elf coming out here. Yeah, it's a superior play because, okay, getting power synced. Can he? No, he can pay for it, can't he? That's 4 mana untapped. Oh, that's too bad. At least it holds him back for the rest of the turn, I suppose. Okay, Ooze Trader putting out the second red mana source here. Lightning bolting the Llanowar Elf. Okay, really doesn't want that. It surprises me he does that. He could have waited with that to get rid of the Factory there. Green Preserve seems sufficiently mana fixed at this point. That Llanowar Elf won't do a lot. It chooses to hold back with the Factory though, probably realizing the other guy must have bolts in hand as he used the first bolt on the Elf. Howling Mind coming out. Both players will draw 2 cards each draw step at this point. There's an if beefy Freed, the Living Hurricane, getting countered though. Would be a 3/3 flying creature that could do damage for green mana each turn. Factory coming out of the Ooze Trader. so that I can block the other factory. There's a Pendelhaven, and ooh, Force of Nature, 8/8 trample. The green ward should probably take a damage from the City of Brass. Didn't see if he did that, but he probably did. No counter magic though. It would be a great target for a juxtapose from Ooze Trader. Trade a small critter for that Force of Nature. Or would it? He can't pay the upkeep for the Force of Nature, of course. Okay, after the green ward has paid the upkeep cost for the Force of Nature, it gets boomeranged straight back into his hand. It does provide more cards in hand, and there's a Library of Alexandria getting put down. I wonder if he has 8 cards in hand or 7 cards in hand at this point, if he can use the library already with that Force of Nature back in the hand. Passing the turn though. Won't attack with the factory. And now the Ooze Trader's factory can tap. Oh, okay, he Brain Geysers here. Yeah, he Brain Geysers for 3, keeping 2 blue mana up, probably hoping to draw into a counterspell here just to block the Force of Nature. He expects it to be played the next turn, once the green ward has untapped his mana sources. Drawing 3 cards. I wonder if he has some countermeasures now for the Force of Nature. Could also make the green ward reluctant to play the Force of Nature now. Okay, strip mining the factory. So now there's an open field. Again, no red mana untapped. And there's an Ailing Leprechaun coming out and an attack with the factory. No red mana sources, so he can't be bolted. Doesn't use the library though. Green ward on the Ailing Leprechaun. So now there's a combination where it makes the opponent's creature green whenever it blocks or is blocked by one, and has protection from green itself. So first combination starting off from the green preserve deck here. The Ailing Leprechaun is now indestructible by creatures. Another Howling Mine coming out. Interesting. Oh, okay, fireballing the Ailing Leprechaun for 1. And still with a red mana source untapped, so he can actually bolt the factory. That's a Divine Offering on one of the Howling Mines, so it nets the green preserve a slight card advantage, as he was the last one to draw from that Howling Mine, and the Ooze Trader will never draw from it. I think there's another Ailing Leprechaun coming out there. I wonder why he doesn't use the library. He should have 7 cards in hand after that double Howling Mine draw step. Okay, he discards. He probably wants to use the Library of Alexandria at the end step of his opponent. But, yeah, passing the turn and he uses the library. Mana Vault coming out of the Ooze Trader. Factory. And there's that Primordial Ooze, a 1/1 creature, and each turn you have to pay a colorless mana in its upkeep. And for each, and an additional color mana, each upkeep so just grows and grows, and each time the upkeep grows, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So that Ooze just grows, becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And more expensive to pay for. And the moment you can't pay for it anymore, it'll do damage to you for as many counters as it has on it. And you can use a juxtapose to trade it to the opponent then. And the Ooze will just run amok on the opponent. After he has gotten some usage out of it himself. Okay. Eve Biffy Freed coming out, getting countered. Still no Force of Nature. I wonder why he doesn't play it. I probably wanted to draw the counterspell. Okay, disenchanting. Second Howling Mine here. Without any Howling Mines left, the active library will be more efficient. Okay, now the Ooze is a 2/2 creature. This grows. It's 1/1 and it grows each upkeep of its controller. So it needs to get a bit bigger, and then it will be very hard to control. That's about 8 more mana, so I suppose it could get really huge, like a 10/10 creature actually, before he loses control of it. Okay, that's like, it's another camera, the foot of that in the middle of the board. There must be a game right next to these guys that's getting recorded. Or perhaps it's not used, I don't know. Okay, he attacks with the Ooze though, that surprises me. He blocks with the factory, it gets pumps. Will he bolt the factory then? Otherwise he'll just straight up kill that Ooze. No? Okay. So the Ooze dies to that blocking factory. The 2/2 Ooze, as the factory could pump itself, it become a 3/3 creature. It's a bit weird. Okay, passing the turn here. I was thinking if perhaps you would play a balance or something like that, but why? You can't even play that. Oh, third factory coming out here. It's a bunch of factories, and that's the Circle of Protection green. Now, that in combination with the Leprechaun is... I already went over that in a previous... in the deck text of this video, but yeah, it's a nifty combination. So, poking him with the Leprechaun and passing the turn. Now that Ooze Trader deck, he needs to do something here to get rid of all those factories. If only had kept that Primordial Ooze back, right, it would have been a 3/3 or 4/4, and you could keep the factories back for a while, just standing there and growing. And if the factories would attack, he would at least take one of the factories out each time. But now he's defenseless. No, okay, Sonic Blasting the other guy, and then this Juxtapose. Trading a tap mana vault for green Mox. Okay. I suppose it'll like postpone the attacks of the other guy, as he'll either take damage from the tap mana vault or have to spend some mana to untap it, as he does here. So I suppose the Ooze Trader wanted to play the Sonic Blast just to tap his own mana vault, but he could have saved that Sonic Blast for an attacking factory, couldn't he? So I'm not sure. Just looking at it here from a spectator perspective, it would seem like a better play, but we don't know the guy's hand and what his plan is. And the Green Preserve attacks with a factory here. 2 points of damage. Would have been nice with the Primordial Ooze as a blocker at this point. Doesn't pump the factory though. I suppose he wants to keep back with the other factory just to block the Ooze Trader's factory if he counterattacks. And then passing the turn to the Ooze Trader. Okay, that camera, there was no camera attached to it, no reason for it to sit there. Okay, recalling this time. Interesting. I wonder, you should probably at least pick a Brain Geyser. Yeah, good pick, good pick. Now, he can pump himself straight back into the game, keeping a couple of blue mana untapped here for counter magic, and also the factory untapped to block the opposing factories. Makes sense, all of it. So let's hope for some cards here. Okay, someone won something in the tournament as the green ward was clapping away. Actually, it could have been me. I won at this point. I think at the end of the Swiss, I won a beta Pegasus for doing the most damage with Mr. Pegasi over the entire tournament. I'm not sure though. Coming over, blocking with the factory, and he pumps the attacking factory a bunch of times. Another Leprechaun, just to get rid of the other guy's factory. He has 4 Mishra's factory now, 2 Leprechauns and an elf. And a Circle of Protection green. But those 4 factories, they are trouble. very, very difficult for the Ooze trader to get rid of them, because they're not creatures, so he can't trade with them. They aren't creatures until they are activated. So the juxtapose, it won't see them as creatures. He also has a fireball in hand, but it can't be used on those factories. I suppose he can fireball all the little leprechauns and elves out there. He probably should, if he has nothing better to do. As he does here, just getting rid of 3 of them at least. Still 4 factories, but it's a start. It still is 8 points of damage each attack phase. Okay, there's a Primordial Ooze. It can block one of them. It's only a 1/1 creature at this point though, so it can't even take out a single factory until after the Ooze trader's next upkeep. Okay, yeah, so people are signing one of the beta Pegasus for the price. Ah, it's nice. You're attacking with the factories, casting Boomerang to get one of them up, and there's an Avoid Fate countering the Boomerang. So he takes 8 points of damage, another elf hits the table. He lets the Ooze survive though, now he has to pay for it. It becomes a 2/2. So he should pay for it now. He can't block a factory with the Ooze now. Putting down another Howling Mine. Okay, paying for the factories, yeah, it's too much. He can block one of them, but Leprechaun finally ekes out a victory here with those factories coming in. This is round number 2 after sideboard, and both of these guys are playing very casual. None of them are in shooting distance of the top 8 here, so it's just for the fun of it here, as most old school is, luckily. Okay, Llanowar Elf turn 1 from... Okay, getting immediately fireballed from the green preserve here. Second Savannah. Makes sense to fireball those early Llanowar Elves, as it's also a mana source you remove. Okay, Sage of Latnam hitting the table here. That's a Circular Protection green, but it won't do much good against that blue wizard there. And you can sacrifice an artifact, and then you draw a card. Winter Orb coming out, okay. And a factory, and attacking with the Latnam for a single point of damage here. Okay, paying a green mana here for some reason, no. 4 mana. Oh, and if Beefy Freed, 3/3 flying, and you can... Every player can pump green mana into it, and it'll do 2 damage to all flying creatures and all players, including itself, by the way, as it flies itself. And it can block that Sage of Latnam at the moment. Though it was pretty expensive, so the Winter Orb will hold him back a bit, as he can only untap a single land each turn. Mana Vault coming out. Now he can use that for mana, and then sack it with the Sage of Latnam to draw a card, instead of untapping it and paying for that. So he attacks with the Sage, and he elects to let it in for some reason. That's odd. Okay, didn't want to risk anything. Spirit Link here, that's a huge combination. Whenever he uses... he attacks with it and does 3 points of damage, gaining 3 life. And it also... the Spirit Link also works for the Hurricane effect from that... if Beefy Freed. So just a single point pumped into it will do 1 damage to the opponent, 1 damage to the owner, 1 damage to If Beef. That's 3 life gained just from that single mana. So imagine if he pumps a lot into it. It triples, and if there are flying creatures on the table, it'll do damage to them. And also... Oh, okay. That's brutal. Using the juxtapose here, getting a hold of the If Beefy Freed, and then sacking the Winter Orb with the Sage of Latnam. So it's actually tapped at this point. just to draw a card. Yeah, and it's obviously tapped as it comes over tapped from that as it attacked the previous turn. What I was about to say is that each flying creature on the board, if the EFB damages that, it will activate the Spirit Link as well, so you can gain like an insane amount of life with it. Okay, so he uses a couple of mana just to do 2 points of damage to both players, and actually, as he's the owner of the Spirit Link, he still heals up. Doesn't even need to act, and he can actually, if he wants to, he can activate the Circle of Protection, and it... Oh no, that won't work, because then it won't activate. It doesn't matter, it won't activate the Spirit Link then. So, yeah, just doing 2 points of damage to each player and gaining 4 life. And the point here is that he can keep doing that as long as he doesn't do 3 points of damage, because that would kill the Ifrit, and then it won't work anymore. But he can just, each turn, he can just pump 2 damage into it and gain life through that. So even though he has that Ifrit, it actually doesn't work. He can't attack with it, as the Spirit Link will just make the other guy heal up. Yeah, he needs to bolt it. He should have done that immediately. Oh man. It is very, very unorthodox decks, this, so there's bound to be some mistakes. He lost that Sage of Latnam for no conceivable gain here. Should have Lightning Bolted. Perhaps he drew into that Lightning Bolt though. We don't know that. Attacking with a Factory. Yeah, doing 2 points of damage. At least he got rid of that lethal Ifbeef Spirit Link combination. Oh, but there's another Ifbeef Ifrit here. And it doesn't have a Spirit Link. Okay, it gets countered. But he still has that Circle Protection green, so he can still damage both players. And then just use his Circular Protection to prevent the damage done to himself. Just so many cross combination and redundancies in that green Preserve deck. Okay. It's having a lot of mana. Oh, fireballing for a bunch. And keeping the Factory back as a blocker. And okay, as a fast effect, he makes... What? He makes the land of the Mrs. Factory a green land. So he can't attack with it now. Oh, there's a Mr. Pegasus. It's in the deck only for this tournament. The one who does the first kill with a Mr. Pegasi gets a prize, and the one who do the most damage overall in the tournament gets a prize as well. So a lot of decks have included Mr. Pegasus, and they can be played for 2 colorless mana actually. There's a Primordial Ooze there on the side of the Ooze Trader. Yes, by making that Factory green, he can use the Circular Protection against it. I have no idea whether you can do that, whether you can cast it on it before it becomes a Factory worker. And if it's still green, I suppose it is. That's the entire card is green now. Another Howling Mine coming out. Oh, don't attack with Ooze. Wait, no, he attacks. Okay. Why? And he blocks and dies. What? The Ooze Trader doesn't seem to like his own Primordial Ooze very much. He might have a plan, I don't know. Seems like such a waste. If he had waited a single turn, the Ooze would be 3-3. They could have taken that Factory with it, and if he waited another turn, it would be 4-4. Okay, what's that? A Force of Nature coming out. And he doesn't have to pay the upkeep. Normally the Force of Nature requires 8 green mana in upkeep, or it does 8 points of damage to the owner. But with that Circular Protection out, you can just pay a single mana just to prevent the damage, and not pay the upkeep for the Force of Nature. So yeah, that's Pegasus, a Sage of Latnam and a Force of Nature against a single green Factory. No Fireball coming out of the Ooze Trader here. Yeah, paying a single point of mana to prevent all the damage from the angry Force of Nature now, because he hasn't paid the upkeep. Factory hitting the table. Oh, Spirit Linking Force of Nature, that's awesome. And then attacking with both. Yeah, so he should heal 8 points of life here. And he doesn't have to use the Circle of Protection anymore, because once the Force of Nature does damage to him, he'll just heal up from the Spirit Link. Another island coming out, and that's a mana vault. I think that's it. I don't think he has a hand. Oh, he has a single card though. Yeah, that's game. Leprechaun or the green preserve wins this one 2-1 or 2-0. Very, very nice deck, I think. A lot of cross combinations, and we did see a bunch of them here. So yeah, I think that's were it for some of the more unorthodox games here. Hope you liked it. We'll be back with some more games from the top 8 or top 4 or whatever it was here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.